What is good, everybody? This is your guy Manny, and this is the Talking Sports with Manny YouTube channel, the Talking Sports with Manny podcast. On tonight, I have a special guest for you guys tonight. This is my guy Jesse Moeller,
Yep.
and he's a contributor for the League Winners. This guy right here knows his stuff. He's always dropping gems and gems and gems for tweets, and I'm just like taking notes, man. So thank you so much, Jesse, for coming on the show today. I know you're going through a lot. Your family's going through a lot, man. Continued prayers for you guys that you guys, get fully recovered, man. So other than that, what's going on, brother?
Well, yeah, thanks for having me on. I very much appreciate it. It's our first time ever chatting in person, so it's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice to put a face to a name. But yeah, it's doing pretty good. Just we're fighting COVID, but besides that, we're just hunkered down, doing the best we can. So just taking it a day at a time at this point. So that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, man. So when I saw that tweet, I'm like, man, I got to get you on because I was going to come on today and talk some things about redraft. Sometimes I do have people who come on later because we're family guys, so this is about the time that things are calmer. Usually 30 minutes from now, but wanted to come on early since you were coming on. But have several topics. It's redraft season, and before I get to the topics, appreciate you helping me out with what I needed advice immediately because I'm in a crazy redraft league and it's 4 flex. Well, it's 2 extra flex, so you can start up to 4 running backs. So the way that these guys were drafting was just crazy. I was able to get Eckler at the 103. Then came back around. I got Jameson Williams. And when it came back around, who did I get? I have to look at my team real quick. But Nick Chubb.
Yeah,
it was Nick Chubb. I was gonna go stud wide receiver, but I'm like, if Nick Chubb is there as my RB3, possibly could be my RB2 because he might outperform Javonte.
Yeah,
I said I gotta grab Nick Chubb. So I grabbed Nick Chubb, and then when it came back around, I was 1 pick away from getting Breece Hall, who I'm a big Breece Hall guy, especially this year. I don't know if he's comes out the gates, balling, but I know at some point he's gonna take flight with that Jets offense. And I wanted to get him in the 4th round. I've been getting him in the 4th round, 5th round, depending on format. And I was so close. 1 pick away, they snagged Breece Hall, and then I took J.K. Dobbins. How do you feel about J.K. Dobbins?
So yeah, if you've been seeing my tweets on Dobbins, I'm pretty much out on him this year. Just the concerns, like we even saw the other day, where he was basically so upset with social media. He was like, "STFU, like I'm not with a limp or whatever," right? And that's just the whole concern with him. It's the lack of pass catching, which I'm totally fine with if you don't have the pass catching because he's super efficient, but it's the injury. On top of that, with Lamar and the offense, like it's changing probably back to its old form, but considering they don't have a healthy running back, they're likely going to bust out Kenyon Drake and Mike Davis, the 20 GOAT basically, and try and run that out. So it's going to be interesting for him. I just want him to be healthy, but yeah, I'm a little worried about him this year. I'd rather just let other people deal with it, and I'll just take a wide receiver in that range.
Right. I mean, I feel you. I'm the same exact way about Cam Akers. I like Cam Akers. I want him to be healthy, but he hasn't been healthy. The reason why I took J.K. Dobbins is that I feel like he has some receiving upside that we don't really get to see, but it's there. He did some of that in college. I think he has that upside to be a 3-down back.
Yes.
It's just staying healthy, being on the field. So, yeah, I took a chance on that. But for me, at that point in the draft, I wanted 4 running backs. I wanted all 4 to have some kind of PPR feel, except of Chubb. Chubb is Chubb. Any running back that's getting me 8 rushing touchdowns a year, I'll take that all day.
Yeah.
So I said, outside of Chubb, let me just get 3 guys that have some PPR upside. Meaning in a PPR league, you want to grab your running backs. Even if you grab 4 early, you got potentially 4 of the best. So it was between Gibson and Damian Harris, J.K. Dobbins and a few others. And I said, just give me J.K. Dobbins. Let me just see. If anything, I'll just stash him and hopefully he comes out at the end of the year and he's strong and all that. So I was able to get him. And then when it swung back around in this particular draft, I picked up Chris Godwin as my DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf in the 5th round. I'll take that all day. Everybody's scared, but I'm like, I know what DK can do, and I might be able to draft other upside type wide receivers later on. And then in the 6th round, I took Chris Godwin. I'm still big on Godwin. If he's healthy, when he's healthy, we know who Godwin is. And especially those last few weeks last year when he was getting like 15 to 17 targets in that stretch, that's nuts. That's nuts. I mean, Mike Evans is great, but it's just something about Godwin gobbling up these targets from Tom Brady that I loved. So I took that upside. And then that's when I came to you with the question, do I go Juju Smith-Schuster or do I go Elijah Moore? You said redraft Elijah Moore, and then Dynasty Elijah Moore, redraft Juju.
Yep.
And then Juju got snagged, and I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and get Dalton Schultz. Then now it's a mini tight end run going on. So it's just been pretty interesting for me. But I can kind of understand why you say go Juju, being that he's going to be the number one wide receiver in a high-powered offense with Patrick Mahomes. I get all that. But for me, it's just something about Elijah Moore that I love. What are your thoughts on Elijah Moore?
So I love his talent. If he was on a team with a good quarterback, and I know there's some Zach Wilson fans, but he was atrocious last year. And the rest of them quarterbacks weren't very good. But he did pop off with like Mike White and Mr. Elite Joe Flacco last year. So that's where he really, it was like week 7 through 13, I think it was I saw. He averaged like something 17 points per game or something crazy, which is basically a top 10 wide receiver. And he's shown you that he's fantastic. So it's like with you taking Metcalf was really nice because it locks in that floor. Like I know everybody hates him, but at worst case, he's a top 20 wide receiver. So you're set there. And then if you did end up with someone like Moore later on or something, you're shooting your shot for the upside. But with how you went about the team, how it's basically if that team's healthy, they're going to be a powerhouse late in the year just because you don't know when you're getting Godwin back. You don't know when you're getting Dobbins back. So if you lock in those early guys like Juju to pair with them, I think that's the perfect combination with that team build because then they give you that floor and they help you fight the insecurity at the beginning. And then it kind of all builds together. And then at the end of the year, you're looking at your team like, wow, this is a powerhouse I got. So that's kind of my thought process on those guys.
Also, let me ask you this. How many leagues are you in this year? I'm in 1 million, man.
So I've cut down. Last year I was in 25, and it was just too much. I was I screwed up a couple lineups because I just couldn't get to them because I'm spending like an hour every Sunday morning. And I have a 3-year-old, and like life's hectic, and I'm here by myself in the mornings while my wife's working, so it just doesn't usually work out. Like there's no way to do that in the mornings. So I'm down to, I think, like 19 leagues I cut it down to. So I didn't really cut it down. I tried to. Yeah. But then, of course, people are like, hey, you told me you were going to do this league. And I'm like, all right, fine. Like, I did promise you this last year. I'll do this league. So, yeah. So I'm in like 19, and I'm like, man. It's fun. I love it. It's just, it's a lot of work sometimes.
It's a lot, I'm in about, I want to say over 20. I don't even know. Yeah. And I'm talking about just strictly paid leagues. Yeah. I have like some creator leagues, some creating content leagues that people, invite me in or join this league, join that league. Oh, we like the content that you bring and this and that. So I'm asking because I actually just joined another one right now. It's a 3-keeper league. And they offered, they said Dalvin Cook, J.K. Dobbins, Terry McLaurin, D.K. Metcalf. And I'm like, yeah, let me go ahead and get that Dalvin Cook, J.K. Dobbins, and D.K. Metcalf, even though I love Terry. I'm a Washington fan. But, just join another one, man. So that's what I was doing when I was looking down. It was like, if you pay right now, you're in.
You're like, all right, man, I'll pay. All right. Now. Yeah, that's the thing. They keep asking. Like, you keep finding people like, there's people I don't even know that will come up to me. Like, you want to join our league? I'm like, nah, dude, I'm maxed out. Like, I don't even know you, so I'm not going to put in the effort to make this a good league. So, like, I'm not going to enjoy it. So, if it's, I'm more open to it if I actually know people, and I'm like, all right, at least it's like buddies, then I'm way more open to that. Then I'm like, yeah, you got me. All right.
Like what I've started doing now is, if I get invited, let it just be a redraft league, and I play 1 year and I'm out. I'm not gonna play more than a year. I play 1 year to say, hey, you've invited me. Especially if I win, I'm out. Yeah. If I win and it's easy, I might come back, win again, and then I'm out. But yeah, I've pretty much played with a lot of different people in the fantasy community. And most times I'm not really looking for any more dynasty leagues.
Yeah, they're
just in so many. But I'll play redraft. I'll play best ball.
Yeah, best ball.
$10, little $15. It's nothing. You draft well. Set your. The roster sets itself. So I'm just getting into best ball.
Yeah, but that's what's great about best ball. Like, you just draft it and they don't have to worry about it. So I'm like, cool, I'll do a best ball because like I don't have to worry about it all year. I'll just draft it and like whatever happens. So I'm totally on board with best ball. It's not the time commitment. So yeah, I definitely do that.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and get into the show a little bit. So this show right here is specifically geared towards people who do redraft leagues. We're going to look at it as a 12-man PPR league because this right now is redraft season. It's redraft season. Lots of drafts going on between now and next Wednesday. So it's like go time. So maybe we can say something, a thing or two that might help people win their leagues or help them, go far and have some success in their league. So my question to you is, in a redraft league, who are you targeting as a wide receiver?
So this is going to depend on a few things. If you want, like, what your team build is going to be. So my thought process is everyone should have a plan going into their draft. And you could totally just throw the draft plan out the window if you see something you like. But you should go in kind of an idea of the team you're going to build based on the format. So if it's, say you're starting 3 wide receivers, you're probably going to want to attack those earlier. If it's full PPR, the wide receivers are going to get a boost. So you're going to move those guys up. But if you want the hero RB approach where you lock in, say, someone like Swift or, CMC or Saquon, any one of those guys in round 1, and then you just hammer wide receivers after that, you can go about that. But like some of my early wide receivers in round 1, if I'm in the back half, it's someone like Diggs or Lamb, who are both basically like top 8 wide receivers for me for this year. And for some reason, I don't know why Stephon Diggs keeps falling, but you can get him the end of round 1, beginning of round 2. So you lock in that stud, basically 160 targets, and basically top 8 wide receiver at the worst. And Lamb is the guy where it's the perfect situation. And I love CeeDee Lamb. And it's kind of burnt me in the past with my love with him. But yeah, I'm going back in on CeeDee Lamb again. So he's another guy. And then say if you get someone like Adams in round 2, that's fantastic because that's another stud wide receiver. And then round 3, it's basically like T. Higgins, or even, sometimes you get lucky, Tyreek Hill falls. And with what Jalen Waddle's going through, like he's not going to be 100% start the year. Right. So, Tyreek's going to get hammered out of the gate. So, like, it's wheels up for him. So, in the early rounds, you can go those guys. And then basically rounds 4 through 6, kind of that dead zone of, those running backs. You can go after, like, Pittman, DJ Moore. If you get lucky, AB falls. But he usually doesn't. But I seen him go in the 4th round one time, and I was like, man, that's nice. And then my favorite kind of discounted of those guys is Deontay. Because he's always in the 5th round, basically, and you could just walk in that elite production. So if you want a wide receiver one in like the 5th round, sometimes the 6th round, like Deontay's the guy to target. I love getting that value on him there.
I love it. And you mentioned some names some guys that I'm targeting. Of course, Stephon Diggs is Stephon Diggs. I mean, that's a no-brainer. But for me, so check this out. You mentioned 2 names, and you're gonna laugh. So I was in a super flex redraft league last week. One that I host, and in the 4th round, I was able to get CeeDee Lamb.
Oh, yes.
As my first. So I took, my usual Eckler, and I believe it was either Swift. I think it was Eckler and Swift, back to back.
That's great there.
And then I took, in the 3rd round, I want to say CeeDee Lamb, or maybe a quarterback. And I think a quarterback. I think I went, I went quarterback in the 1st round. Then I went Eckler, Swift, something like that, and then I think I went CeeDee Lamb in the 4th round. But also in the 9th round, a wide receiver fell so bad, and he goes by the name of DJ Moore. Now,
what league is this? This is chaos.
You know what? I'm going to pull up this draft while I talk. I'm not a DJ Moore guy whatsoever.
You need to be. He's so good.
You know what? He's consistent. He's a consistent wide receiver too. No matter how you slice it. So I had to kind of get out of my way of, I don't like this guy. I don't like that guy.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to go ahead and grab the guy that needs to be grabbed. You know what I'm saying? So it just made so much sense. Yeah, I grabbed CeeDee Lamb in the 4th, and I pretty much faded wide receiver all the way to the 9th round, and DJ Moore was right there looking at me. So to have a CeeDee Lamb, DJ Moore, with running backs Eckler, Swift, and Breece Hall.
Yeah, that's
with a tight end, Dalton Schultz, Lamar Jackson, and I believe it was Mac Jones. That's my core. That's the core of my team. I think that team, even if I don't make a deal, has a chance to win a championship.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, the people that didn't draft well, the guys that overvalued guys like what's his name, Gabe Davis. You have all these Gabe Davis lovers, and you have all this. Gabe Davis is good, but you got to realize redraft is redraft. You cannot play redraft like you play Dynasty. So this guy went and took guys like Gabe Davis way ahead of time. I'm going to pull up the draft, and you're going to laugh when I pull it up.
Yeah, there's
so like you definitely mentioned some guys that I like, and it's all about when you're getting these guys. And if you can get these guys at great value, it just bodes well for your team. Now, in terms of running backs, who are you targeting?
So I mentioned a couple of those guys early on. Obviously, you need a top 2 pick to get CMC, but if I have the first, second pick, he's the guy I'm targeting. Obviously, Taylor, JT's great. So if you can get your hands on JT at the 1 or 2, like you lock that in, and you're just happy because you know he's going to put up around 20 points. He might not have 29 like point ceiling like McCaffrey, but he's going to give you about 20 points. So he's fantastic. And then as we move into like kind of the later round, like I want Eckler if he falls is great. I love Swift. And then Saquon. Like Saquon's the guy that it's nice to see everyone jumping back on board with me because like I've seen nonstop just Saquon hype. But a couple months ago, nobody wanted to touch him, right? So I was like, I've been just hammering him. But yeah, Saquon's he's so talented. And if he hits his ceiling, he's going to win you the league. So like that's just how I view him. And you can, once you get past those guys, like you mentioned Brees earlier, he's great in the 4th round because he's a rookie, so he's devalued just because he's a rookie.
Right.
Say if he had actually played, he would basically be valued like Javonte at the worst. So he would be up higher. But he's plays for the Jets too, and people hate that, but it's like he's going to get work, and he's a very good, talented player. So you put those 2 things together, and that's how you get a really good player at a discount. So I love Brees at that rate. And then kind of once you get into that round 5, like it gets really treacherous with running backs. Like that's basically I'm just hammering wide receiver for the next like 3 or 4 rounds. But the guy later on who I like in round 7, round 8 is basically Chase Edmonds and those guys. And then you can kind of go after like Ramondre Stevenson. Just take your upside shots with like Tony Pollard and players like that who, if they fall into the right situation, they become the one, like their value skyrockets. So those are kind of a handful of guys I'm targeting this year.
Well said. Well said. I mean, I love it, man. Like I said, I'm big on Brees Hall. Sometimes you have these analysts that have, spreadsheets and this and that, and that's fine. That's just never really been me. I do look at stats. I do look at, targets and different things, but I'm also go off my gut most times. Like sometimes you just know there's something about this black. Like last year, I said there's something about Eckler. And I wanted Eckler everywhere early, but I went against myself and went with the consensus because, nobody was taking Eckler in the top 5 of the draft. Everybody was taking Eckler the back end of the 1st or even somewhere in the 2nd. I knew that Eckler was going to have a top 5 running back type season. And he ended up, RB2?
Yeah, he was RB. Yeah, I think you're right. He was RB2. Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere around there, either 2 or 3. I don't know. I can't even. I know Jonathan Taylor was 1, and then Najee Harris was like 3, I think. So somewhere around there. So he was top 3 for sure. And I knew he was going to be top 3. Like I pegged Eckler in for 100 catches last year. He didn't get it. I'm banking on him getting 100 catches again this year. You bring in Sony Michel, and he's going to take some of those rushing yards away, which is for me is great. It's going to keep Eckler fresh. It's going to keep Eckler healthy. I just need Eckler to be targeted 7 to 10 times a game. That's all I want. I don't want much. Just 7 to 10 targets a game, and he's going to catch 7 to 10 catches if he's getting these little dump offs. So that's what I kind of saw in Eckler, and I think he can do that this year. I'm drafting Eckler everywhere. Surprisingly, like you're in on Saquon, I'm out on Saquon. Just because I have memories of the bad things that he's done to me. Him and Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey was my favorite player for years. In Dynasty, I've sold him off. I had like 60% of all my league's CMC shares. Sold him off and got big gains out of selling him now opposed to selling him later. One brought in Josh Allen. One brought in Garrett Wilson, Pickett, Brian Robinson Jr., Mechie. the list goes on. I got like 5 or 6 picks in 22's draft, and I almost hit, or I'm potentially hit on multiple picks. So in Dynasty, I'm selling off all my CMCs. I didn't have not one Barkley. And even in redraft, I'm kind of staying away from Barkley and CMC. CMC, I'm more prone to, because that's just my guy. But for Barkley, even if I draft him, he's more of a trade target. So that's just me. I cannot be hurt not one more time. It's been like the last 4 years, I've had either CMC or like last year, I had CMC and Barkley. Dalvin, Cook, and Barkley. And you saw how last year went. It's tough. Yeah. When I was starting guys like Boston Scott.
Oh yeah, that's it's gone down the road. If that happens, you're like, well, I'm just gonna start this scrub off the bench and hope it works out. It's like sometimes you just get burnt so bad by those guys. Like I always tell people, draft the guys you want to draft, even if consensus tells you to draft this guy or whatever. Like you want to enjoy your team no matter what. Like
exactly.
At the end of this day, the game is fun. So draft the players you like, and there's nothing better than enjoying the team you have. Like I know consensus will tell me to take certain players. They'll be like, oh, draft Damian Harris. I'm like, I don't want to touch Damian Harris. Like, I don't want him. I don't want him on my team. Like, I'm just not going to draft him. So, like, there's certain players like that. I'm like, I just don't want to do it. So, and it's usually, I've been like that with Henry for years where I'm like, I don't want Henry. Like, he's older. Like, he doesn't catch passes. And, like, he's burnt me. Like, he's just crushed every year. So, I'm like, maybe this year I go in and get some Derrick Henry, right? Just to see if I'll be right. So, of course, this year he probably would do the opposite and just not be good. Go figure. But, yeah, it's just all about, like, finding the guys you like. Don't reach too far. So say if somebody has like a 5th round ADP, don't take them in like the 1st round, but jump ahead to like the 4th round if you like them maybe or something, or the 3rd round if you really want them. But just take the guys you want. Like that's how everybody should play, because that's what this is. It's a game.
Right. So real quick, man, as we look at this draft that I did, so you see that the first 6 picks were quarterbacks. And the surprising thing was Tom Brady, but the way that the scoring is set up, you get points for first downs. So Tom Brady is actually an excellent pick in this top 6. Jonathan Taylor went, and Christian McCaffrey, the only 2 non-quarterbacks. I was able to get Lamar Jackson just because I want some rushing yards. I wanted to get one of the top 3 guys that do run the ball, just to get some of that rushing upside. And I believe that Lamar Jackson, he's gonna ball out this year. He's gonna make people remember who Lamar Jackson is. I got him pegged for 1,200 yards rushing. I got him double-digit touchdowns rushing, and then I have big hope. And then passing the ball, I have him at 3,500 yards passing, and then I have him at 25 passing touchdowns. Yeah, could be totally wrong, but
I think 3,500. Yeah, he's gonna smash if he hits those numbers. Like that's QB1 right there.
That's QB1. That's QB1, and that's what I'm expecting. Like Lamar is gonna remind people how dynamic he is. So I'm hoping he's healthy. If he's healthy, 1,200 yards is. I mean, he can do it. If any quarterback can, is Lamar Jackson. If any quarterback can run for 10 touchdowns, especially if J.K. Dobbins is not healthy, 10 touchdowns is nothing to Lamar Jackson. And then he showed he showed that he can pass the ball last year, which I like. So if that continues to get better with weapons like Bateman and Andrews really being like the main guys, I think, and then likely he's going to play some slot wide receiver and this and that. They're just going to have an offense that's just geared towards Lamar Jackson. And I think he has a great season. But as you can see, like I said, I took Eckler at the 204. Swift at the 309 was just nuts to me.
Yeah, that's what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's running back 11. That's pretty crazy. Like that's the lowest I've seen him. But why is someone taking Stafford ahead of Jackson? Like I don't understand. Like why would you take Stafford ahead of Lamar Jackson? Like the pick like that. That makes no sense. Like
the scoring does say that you get, I think it's 1 point per each first down, but still,
is that for rushing and passing, or is it just one?
No. Yeah, rushing. Yeah, rushing or passing. Yeah, I think you get a point. No. I think it's just for passing. I don't know if you get.
Okay.
Yeah. So they just went for the like the first downs, but still, like
I got you.
So Lamar Jackson, I don't care. I'm taking Lamar Jackson over Stafford any day, just because of that rushing upside. People are looking at Lamar and saying, "Oh, it's a down year. It's this, is that." That's fine. Give me that down year. That's fine. So on the swing, CD Lamb at the 404, that was beautiful.
That's a steal.
And in that round, I think after CD Lamb, it was Keenan Allen and Tyreek Hill and Pittman and then Evans. And then when they came back around, obviously I didn't have to go Brees Hall in the 5th, but like I said, big fan.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick. Like it's especially
and that's three guys who I believe can catch at least 60 receptions. And I'm just being modest on the Swift and Eckler, but if Brees can get me somehow 60 receptions, man, I feel really good. And when they came back around, all the quarterbacks were dried up. I'm not a Justin Fields guy. I'm not messing with Deshaun Watson. I didn't want Tannehill. I wanted Wentz, but not in this round. So I went Matt Jones. Why not? He's going to get some short passes, get some first downs. So that was value there. Then when he came back around, one guy took Dallas Goedert over Dalton Schultz. Let's talk about Dalton Schultz. I know he's not on the notes, but I wanted to talk about Dalton Schultz because people like right now, like we talked about earlier, it's either you're in or you're out on Dalton Schultz. When I look at the Dallas Cowboys with no Amari Cooper and you have CeeDee Lamb, there's still plenty targets to go around. I think that Dalton Schultz has a great season, and he might be second most targeted guy on the team. I don't trust Michael Gallup. I don't know what he can do. I don't trust James Washington. I mean, Noah Brown? Like, who's really out there? So when you look at it, Dallas Cowboys, the defense played really good last year, but I see them potentially taking a step back. Okay, the schedule is decent. The NFC East is not as bad as it was, so I'm expecting Dallas to, pass a little bit more to get back in the game. How do you see it playing out in terms of Dalton Schultz and targets, and do you think that he can be a top 5 tight end this year?
Yeah, so he has literally the perfect opportunity a tight end can have because the only other guy that's there that could cause problems is Jalen Tolbert. Like he's the rookie wide receiver, so he could step in and command a role because he's a pretty good rookie. So he'd be the third guy, and it's going to be those three while Gallup heals up. So it's going to be Lamb, Schultz, and Tolbert. We saw last year Schultz was heavily targeted with that team. He didn't have the best metrics per se, so that's kind of why people are out on him. Is because when you compare him, what's actually funny with Goddard right next to him, and I have them back to back in my rankings like that, so it'd be Goddard then Schultz. Right. But why people are so bullish on Goddard compared to Schultz is because metrics show you he's a super freak athlete, and he showed you the talent is there. He basically led the team in receiving some certain point on. I can't remember the target share, but it was 24%, and he was better than Devonta Smith. So people see that, and they're very in. But Schultz is just safe. He might not be able to be the tight end 1, but he's going to be in that tight end 5 range. So I don't think it's a bad thing to take Schultz. It's just I don't know if the quote unquote ceiling case is there. So it's just all about how you want to structure your team. If you want to shoot for the moon, you go Goddard. If you want a more safety floor, it's Schultz because he's going to be in a better passing offense. So it's you just lock in that production with Schultz, and you'll be happy with him. He'll probably be tight end 5, 6 on the year for you. So he's not going to do that. Right.
So I like Goddard, but what scares me is AJ Brown coming in, so less targets, and then you still have Devontae Smith there. So that's kind of and then it's Jalen Hurts. What are we getting? Is he going to improve? So that's kind of especially for this year, not, dynasty or anything like that. Just for this year, for me, I'm just looking at the target share. Other tight ends that I look at that can get a lot of targets in their particular offense is another guy called Comet. That's because outside of Darnell Mooney, who's there? This reminds me.
Did it freeze?
And at that point, he was learning that position, but because there was so much targets to go around, Logan Thomas finished the year as a tight end 3 that year. Believe it or not, Logan Thomas. So when I look at these offenses that the tight end is that second best receiver, I kind of lean that way, but it's all about where I'm getting these guys.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking at. Yeah.
With the tight ends, you should always target a guy who's going to be top 2 in receptions because basically the way it breaks down, unless a tight end is catching a ton of touchdowns like Hunter Henry and Dawson Knox last year, they're not going to produce for you. So they either need to be and Andrew Cooper on he's a great Twitter follow. He studies tight ends and does this all the time. You basically want a guy who's top 2 in targets, and then if they catch touchdowns on top of it, that's how you get the ceiling case. But if they're not top 2 in targets, it's going to be rough. So Comet, you mentioned, he's a lot of people's late round flyer because he's going to be second on targets on a team. That offense is going to be terrible, but he's going to be targeted. So at least you'll get those targets, and targets translates to fantasy production more than anything else. So it's that's what you want.
Right. So let's look at Dalton Schultz real quick. He was targeted 104 times. I don't know where he ranked in targets for that team, and that's with Amari Cooper being there. You know what I'm saying? So he had 104 targets. He caught 78 receptions, 808 yards, and he had 8 touchdowns. So for me personally, I see those touchdown numbers going up. I don't know how Dallas is going to score. I'm looking at that team saying, hey, I'm really hoping that it's CeeDee Lamb, because I have CeeDee Lamb shares. But then with me picking up a lot of Dalton Schultz, and even in free agency last year, I scooped him in different leagues, and he turned out pretty well. So I'm hoping hoping that all these numbers go up, but you just never know. You never know. And then it's a contract year, but we'll see. Looking at the show notes, wanted to hit up the next topic while I mix in some of this draft through the process. So when do you go tight end typically in your redraft leagues? Let's just say one quarterback, 12-man PPR. When do you typically go tight ends?
So it's all value based for me. So basically the way I do my rankings or projections is it's tiered.
So
because it's just a lot easier for me to do it that way. Because you'll see a tier ending, so you'll want to make sure you get that last guy before you fall back into the next tier. But with tight ends, I want the elite tight ends, or I'm going to wait just because I don't want TJ Hawkinson. I don't want Zach Ertz. I don't want these middling tight ends because studies show they don't produce. So you're going to get similar production from someone farther back. You can get Hunter Henry. He's going to give you touchdowns later. Cole Comet, another guy right there who you see on the draft board, he could be 2 in target. So my last tight end is really Goddard. That's the last guy who I'd be comfortable starting. If I'm falling down into Hawkinson or Knox or Ertz or one of those guys, I'd rather just wait. Right. And then just hit up someone really like David Njoku or someone like that way down the list who you can get the last rounds. And then I'll just pepper him with another upside play, Logan Thomas if he's healthy or someone like that, because no one's drafting him right now. But yeah, I'll take those 2 shots and hopefully it hits, because it's pretty easy to find that tight end 12. It just it honestly they just don't matter. They just don't matter at all for fantasy. So it's either go early or late, because I think something I can't remember the stat, but something half of the top 5 tight ends have come outside the top 12 for the last few years. So basically these guys coming out of nowhere, you were talking about Dawson Knox last year, he came out of nowhere, and Schultz came out of nowhere. Last year, we were having the debate between Schultz and I can't remember the other guy. He got cut, but the other guy was actually going ahead of Schultz on the Cowboys roster because he was the tight end everybody wanted, and I was a sucker for that too. I was no, don't draft Schultz, just grab the other guy, and of course they cut him. But I was oh, so you can. Yeah, it's Blake Jarwin. Thank you. Yeah, it's having a brain fart. But yeah, Blake Jarwin was the guy where there was a battle last year. It was do you want Jarwin or do you want Schultz? And I picked Jarwin, and I was so wrong about that. And I was oh, yeah. I cut last year. I kept OJ Howard on one of my dynasty rosters, and I cut Dawson Knox before the season. And of course, I watched Dawson Knox destroy and OJ Howard just be a dust, he's just washed. And I was I made the worst call. I was oh my gosh, what am I doing? So yeah, it just happens every year. I'm man.
Yeah, tight ends are so random that they come out of nowhere, even in real life. And it could be Albert O this year, but then it could be a rookie. It could be a Pat Freiermuth type. 6-7 touchdowns. So it's you just never know with tight ends. Like you said, if they're not elite, you don't get them. But the thing is, sometimes these tight ends start to put up some numbers, right? For example, what Dalton Schultz did this past year was what Mark Andrews did before this breakout. So you look at it, obviously, if you know about Mark Andrews, then you know about Mark Andrews. Me, I just didn't really know about Mark Andrews like that. I just, didn't really follow tight ends, didn't really care until I started playing tight end premium. So in a keeper league, I actually traded Mark Andrews before the breakout. I'm I don't want him. I'm going to keep Amari Cooper over Mark Andrews. Big mistake. but it still ended up winning the championship, so it didn't matter. But it's just like sometimes these tight ends, for me, when I look at tight ends when they're young, really, I'm looking at year 3, year 4 breakout.
Mm-hmm.
They got to learn the offense. Very few come in year 2 doing anything or year 1 doing anything. So I normally wait till year 3, year 4, but I look at stability. Who's your quarterback? How are you using the offense and things of that nature? But when it comes to tight ends, I'm kind of like you. I go off of value. There might be like 5 to 7 that I'll mess with. And if one of those 7 are gone and based off where they're going, then I might just say, whatever. Give me Irv Smith and Logan Thomas. Then I have 2. Right. But then it's like, if I have 5 bench space, do I really want to roster 2 tight ends? So sometimes I might go Kelsey in the first round or second round and just call it a day. Yeah. And, when you have that elite tight end, you just roster 1. And you get to use your second bench space to, handcuff running backs or have all running backs on your roster. Or, so having an elite tight end really helps your bench.
It's very nice. Like it's basically, they call it VORP drafting, or value over positional replacement, where it's basically like you get such an edge from that elite tight end, which as you see the board, those top 5 guys right there up to Waller, like they're all difference makers.
Yep.
So if you have one of those guys, like you're going to be happy. Like I know people are like worried about Waller and Kittle, but like they're elite talents, they're free tight ends, and they're going to be like they're still going to produce. Like if you get those guys, you're happy. Outside of that, it starts getting kind of questionable. You're like, I don't know. Like I like this guy, but and then you're just looking at your roster like, man, like what do I do?
Exactly. Exactly.
So you can get ugly.
No, that is funny. So moving on to the next topic, when do you typically take quarterbacks in a 12-man redraft league?
Yeah, so for me, I'm not taking like the first 2 just because what you're giving up if you're taking Josh Allen in round 2 or like the next guy in round 3, like I'm going to wait a little bit just because the elite talents at the other positions, that's where they go. And the thing with like quarterback is it's very deep. You can get like QB 10, you can get Russell Wilson, and you're going to be very happy with Russell Wilson. You know what I'm saying? And it's not going to be a huge difference between him and like Tom Brady, realistically, like who will probably be QB 5. And like Brady's great. I love Brady just because he's old as dirt, but he just throws a million touchdowns and passes, so it doesn't matter. But I'll start in the middle rounds is where I'll start targeting someone like Lamar, or I'll go after Kyler or Hurts if they're all available. So like between round 4 and 6 is usually you'll see Lamar, and then you'll see Kyler, and then you'll see Jalen Hurts go. If you want to wait, you can wait for Burrow, or you can push it back a little bit for like Russ, or and then if you really want to go for like the last Konami guy, it's Trey Lance, and he's usually around 9 or 10. So Lance has been the one I've been like setting my eyes on just because he has that rushing ability, right? So and you see him going in that range, and it's like, I'll lock him in. And if you're worried, just grab someone like Kirk Cousins in like round 12 or 13, where you're going to get some good production like for cheap. So you can just say if Lance busts, then you just put in Cousins, and then you can stream So there's ways to get it to work, but I'm just not going to go like Josh Allen round 2 just because I'd rather take positional players there.
And it's funny you say that because like for me, like in a 10-man, I would wait till the very last pick to get my quarterback. In a 10-man, think about it, simple math. How many teams are really going to draft 2 quarterbacks? Hardly none. Because the teams that go early and draft a quarterback, you'll be silly to draft a Lamar Jackson and then draft a quarterback. It makes no sense, especially with 5 bench spaces. So I was in the league and didn't take a quarterback until the last 3 rounds. I took 2. I took Trey Lance, then I took my last bench player. Then I came back and took Dak Prescott just because Dak was waving at me saying, "Hey, Manny, what's up?"
Yeah, like
I don't want to go ahead and grab me. So I'm like, okay, grab Dak Prescott just in case Trey Lance is not really what we think he's going to be. So that's definitely a great strategy. That's something that I actually do. I have a redraft league coming on up tomorrow and another one on Tuesday, and I'm going to wait forever to draft a quarterback. I did that last year, and I got Stafford. And go figure
just
Stafford,
like, Yeah, right. And Stafford was like QB7 or something. Like he was really good. I would just find that line of that last quarterback you're comfortable starting with if you're going to play that strategy, and just make sure you get that guy. Because like you don't want to be starting freaking Zach Wilson or like Jared Goff. Like that's just a nightmare scenario, right? So you just want to make sure you get that quarterback you're comfortable with. Because you can totally push quarterback and you can push tight end, but like there comes a point when you're just like, oh, I've gone too far. and like I'm screwed. So you just have to know your league and kind of watch the board, see how it plays. If you see a run coming, or you see like a bunch of people don't have a quarterback in one of those last rounds, and you see it coming, like you might want to grab it before then, because then you might miss out on that situation. So
absolutely, because in my league, the one that I'm going to do on Tuesday, there's always a Kirk Cousins available. There's always a Stafford, or even a Derek Carr. Some of these other, guys are available, and Joe Burrow. When you take him, Herbert. I mean, it's so many guys. It's such a deep position in the one quarterback league that even if you're drafting two, please do, because at the end of the day, when the bye weeks roll, you're going to drop somebody. Then I end up grabbing whoever you drop. So it being 5 bench spaces with a limited IR, I try to load up on position players, make sure I'm good.
Absolutely.
Make sure I got 4 running backs, make sure I got 4 wide receivers at least before I go quarterback. That's kind of how I roll. Now, who is your QB1 this year? I mean, sorry, your wide receiver 1 this year?
It's Kupp, but Jefferson is right on his heels. So they're in their own tier. Like, it's those two. So if I have Kupp, I'm thrilled, or if I have Jefferson, I'm thrilled. And they're like basically doing 2 picks apart in one quarterback league. So it's basically like I've seen Jefferson go ahead of Kupp, or I've seen like basically Kupp go ahead of Jefferson, but they're basically back to back. Because the way I've seen drafts play out is it's Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, or flip that order, and then it's basically Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson. So realistically, you have to have a top 4 pick to get one of those guys. But maybe Eckler jumps in there, and then they go to basically pick 5. But you need an early pick to get him. But it's Kupp. Like, he dominated the competition. He was – I can't remember how many points ahead he was of the wide receiver 2, but it was something like at least 5 points per game. I think it was Adams. He was like 20, and he was 25. It was something crazy. And, like, him compared to the wide receiver 12 was just a gulf. Right. It was like 10 points a game. It was nuts. Like, I've never seen a wide receiver do what he did last year. So, like even if he regresses, he's still going to be incredible. So, like, you can make the argument, well, he's going to be worse. Well, yeah, of course, he just had like the greatest wide receiver season of all time, but he's still going to be fantastic. So, I don't really care between the two. If you want one of those guys, just grab one. Whoever your favorite is, like, you're going to be happy with the production.
It's funny that you say that, because I think that Cooper Kupp, he's amazing. I've been on the Cooper Kupp train since the beginning, man. He's been my guy since the beginning. And when I first started playing Dynasty, I actually drafted Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods that year, and I held on, and it paid off. Last year, I was able to win the league, and it wasn't a cash league. Now it's a cash league. So I'm like, man, I could have won some money last year. So, I've been on the Cooper Kupp train. Cooper Kupp is the only wide receiver that I would actually draft number 1 overall.
Yeah, if you
if I just said, you know what, let's try something different, and I have 1-on-1, I'm very comfortable taking Cooper Kupp at the 1-on-1.
Yeah,
you know what you're gonna get. You know what you're gonna get.
If you like, I like in situations like that. This is more tournament based strategy. But if you're trying to say, if you have pick 1 or whatever, and you're trying to differentiate yourself, like instead of going like CMC or JT, like take Kupp there, because there's not going to be teams that first pick that have Kupp. So if you're trying to go that strategy, it's a great strategy to differentiate yourself, because and tournaments are like a whole different strategy, like a whole different game. We talk about them for an hour, but like it's a good way to give yourself an edge on your competition. So even if you're not 100% sure with it, you just try something different. And he's just so good. Like he's incredible.
Durable. Yeah, with the way that running backs get hurt, I mean. I've started leaning wide receiver over the last 3 years, and I won a lot more the last 3 years than I have ever playing fantasy, just because you can have the perfect setup. Like, I remember Saquon Barkley's first year. I had CMC in the first, and I drafted Saquon in the second. I went all the way. I think I lost the first game, and I went all the way to the championship without a loss, and lost in the championship. I had 2 losses, week 1 and week last.
That's the worst. That's great, but that's the worst. You're like,
I had the perfect team. I had those 2 guys and Joe Mixon. Then I had Keenan Allen and Kenny Golladay.
Yeah,
great team. Great team. They hated me, man, because I made one trade and got Mixon when Mixon was hurt, and Mixon came back healthy. He was doing his thing as my RB3.
Yeah,
I had CMC. I mean, all 3 guys were catching passes, destroying to get me about 20 points a game, all 3. And then, Keenan Allen was Keenan Allen. You already know. And then Golladay was coming into his own. So
Right.
It's an
Oh
amazing
yeah.
year, man.
I forgot about Kenny Galladay having that good year. Gosh,
Yep.
it's been a long,
Yep.
quick minute since that's happened, but I remember that year. He was the
Yeah.
touchdown king that year. Just
Yep.
just
Yep. Yep.
catching deep bombs from Stafford.
Right. Right. So good times. Good times. So we talked about your wide receiver one. Who's your RB1 this year?
Christian McCaffrey. And I'm totally fine if he gets injured. Like I know that's the risk with him. I know this going in. So
Mhm.
basically the way I play is I'm going for upside. I'm trying he's been incredible even when he's been hurt. Like
Mhm.
his per game metrics and his per touch metrics, they're all fantastic.
Yep.
So even in partial seasons, he's been incredible. So
Yep.
I know there is a greater injury risk. Like you have to know this when you buy into him compared to Taylor. And Taylor's a stud. Like I know people say he doesn't have that high of a ceiling, but he's incredible, and you're going to be happy with Taylor no matter what. So if you
Right.
want to take him, I'm not going to blame you. Like I get it. Like it's a safer choice, but I've seen what McCaffrey can do, and there's nobody else in fantasy that can do what he does. Like it's truly elite the difference he makes. His I think he was still at a 30% target per route run, like just insane stuff. And his yards per touch and his like everything was just off the charts fantastic. Like he's still that guy. Where the difference with Saquon is we don't know if he's still that guy because
Right.
he's been demonstrably worse. McCaffrey's still been incredible, even though he's just been fighting through injury. So it's I'm taking the shot with the upside. But I actually in my redraft league last year, I had my team just was awful. Like we just got injured left and right. So I traded Jefferson and I locked in Taylor because it's half one PPR because I wanted him basically in Dynasty because it's one keeper. So that's the one league where I have Jonathan Taylor, and I'm very happy to have him in that one league. But I have a couple McCaffrey Dynasty shares, and I'm we're going all in this year because we don't know how much longer this is gonna last. So it's yeah, it's just, and I'm just a sucker for McCaffrey. He's basically my favorite fantasy player. So
Right.
I'm not afraid of him at all. So I'm just all in
Now,
on
for
McCaffrey.
me, in my league on Tuesday, I have pick number 3. If Christian McCaffrey happens to fall to pick number 3, I'm gonna take him. I'll be stupid not to take him. You got to take that risk because you know what he brings to the table when he's healthy. But this year, I know how to handle Christian McCaffrey. I still have him in a few keeper leagues, and what I do is I make sure I get Deontay Foreman. Everybody says Chuba Hubbard. I'm a Foreman guy. Give me Foreman. Give me the guy that's going to be able to get the goal line carry. So I'm ready for Christian McCaffrey in the leagues that I have to draft him in or whatever like that. So just quick story. So the league that I'm doing that draft where I took those 4 running backs in, the guy had pick number 2, and he took Christian McCaffrey, and I took Eckler at 3. And then when it came back around, he said, "Hey, I'll trade Christian McCaffrey for your next 2 picks." I said, "Well, I'll give you pick 3 and 4, and give me Christian McCaffrey. So I can pair him and Eckler and just have a nasty PPR tandem." So he said, "Okay, well, no, just give me your 2nd and 3rd, and I'll give you my 5th." So I thought about it. I'm like, okay, I trust my abilities to draft. Okay, I'll do that deal. Let's shake on it. But then the commissioner said that we couldn't do an in-draft trade, even though it was on sleeper. So I said, okay. My whole thing was, I told him, when it's my turn to pick, tell me who you want, and I can just go ahead and get you your guys. And we'll do this. He started to kind of act kind of funny. I said, look, let me just pivot. I went on and took Javonte Williams, went on back and took Chubb. This guy would have had Chubb and Javonte Williams for Christian McCaffrey, but he was silly in playing games. So I kept my guys. I kept my players.
Yeah.
And if Christian McCaffrey gets hurt, I'm not going to laugh at the injury, but I'm going to laugh at him because he had a chance to get 2 stud backs. Anytime you're trading your 1st-round pick for a 2nd and 3rd, you always do it. I don't care who it is. Even if it's Jonathan Taylor at 101, obviously you want Jonathan Taylor, but if you're not going to make the pick, trade it because you don't know what you're going to be able to get. You have 2 second rounds, you have 2 third rounds, and that pretty much can just win you the league, So him giving me the 5th and me taking a chance on Christian McCaffrey, I did it last year. I traded my 1st and 3rd, for Christian McCaffrey, and it didn't pan out. So that's a risk that I'm always willing to take. But if you let me draft my own players, I'm keeping my own players, because I trust my drafting,
Right.
I don't know what you're going to do, but when I draft, I'm going to go for the best value. So for me, I have Austin Eckler as my RB1 this year. We'll see if I'm right. We'll see.
He's a
How do
stud,
you
man.
feel
He is.
about Leonard Fournette and Derrick Henry?
So I like Fournette more than Henry. I am worried because like Henry's a big dude, and that
Yep.
foot injury is pretty serious. That's like metal plate in his foot with a screw. Like that does worry me. But like if I'm in the second round, I'm still going to take the risk on Henry.
Right.
So the way I look at it is by taking Henry in this, like early, say if he falls to like mid early second round, I'm totally fine because we know what Henry can give to you. And I know people are fading him and they don't like him, but it's all cost related for me. Like I'm not going to
Right.
take Henry top 5 or anything like that because I don't want to risk it there because I don't know if that true ceiling is there. Even though like last year he was on pace for like an ungodly amount of like 400 something touches and just like 2,000 plus yard and all that stuff, right?
Right.
But his per touch metrics are down compared to what they were in his career. Like he was not. The metrics were not as good as they were in previous years. So it was more like he was just doing that stuff on volume. Like he wasn't bad, but he wasn't the player he was. So that was more concern. And then the injury on top of it. Like I'm worried about him, but like you know what he can give to you. So if he hits this year, like that's a great value. And I like Fournette. Like Fournette falls to what's his ADP? Let me see. It's low for some reason, and people are just I don't know why. Like
Right.
yeah, he's basically RB13 in drafts, and he's going at the end of the second, early third. Which that's a great value because I know they have Rashard White and people like him, but he's still a rookie.
Right.
And if Brady does not trust him, he's not going to play. Like we've seen this in like we saw what happened with Keyshawn Vaughn. That dude basically just worked his way out of the league because he didn't want to listen to Brady and he was out. So if Brady trusts Fournette, which he does, like Fournette's still going to get a bunch of work and going to get those touchdowns. So like he's going to be efficient. So if you can get Fournette in the third, I'd be thrilled with that because you can lock in that production. But I'd be happy with either one of those two at cost. It's just you just know you're buying into an older running back, so like it could fall. Like that happens with older running backs, but these are both two of the better talents, so I'm not too worried about it, honestly. It's just
love it. We got to talk about this because this has been one of the hottest topics on the Twitterverse these past few weeks, and that's Antonio Gibson, man.
Yeah.
What is your thoughts on Antonio Gibson? How do you see that shaking up? I'm a Washington fan.
Yeah.
The people don't want to hear from me. They want to hear from somebody else.
So before Brian Robinson was injured and shot and everything, like I wasn't touching him. I literally was not drafting him just because he was going in a place where I was not confident. And like you can look at my stuff pre-draft. Like there was so much talk of them bringing in a running back. Like I could tell they weren't happy with Gibson. I don't know why. Like he's look at that there right there. His speed score, like he's a freak. Like, but yeah, he messes up stuff a lot and he misses things. So like that's why they trust J.D. McKissic because he does the job they like him to do and they can count on him. So like that's why he earned that role. Even though the crazy thing is Gibson's a freaking wide receiver before. Like they still don't want to give him that passing down role because they don't trust him to pass block and stuff like that. So it's weird. So with Robinson hurt, like he's gonna basically be who he was last year, which is fine. And he's going in like the 9th round now. So like I don't hate that. It's just if Robinson goes back to year, which he should, like at a certain point, like he's gonna work into Gibson's work and it's just gonna be ugly. So if you want Gibson for like early down, like RB2 early on in the season, and then you have someone else you could pivot to, like I'm totally fine doing that. But if you're counting on him all year, I would be a little worried because towards the end of the year, like I don't know if you can start him. So like that's the thing. You might be able to flex him, but we just don't know. So I'm very hesitant. But the funny thing is, like I was in a dynasty startup and he fell to like basically the 10th round, and I was like, screw it. It's like him or David Montgomery, and I was like, I'm not touching Montgomery. I don't want Montgomery. So I'll do and then of course like some news came out when he was doing his punt returning stuff, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm like, this guy, like it's been a nightmare on the Twitter streets with Gibson. Like I got feel bad for him at this point. It's been brutal for the guy.
But for me, I've been saying what you just said since the end of last year. You know, you guys can go back, look at the tape, and everybody was thinking I was so hard on Antonio Gibson. He's a good talent. He's just not a running back. He's not a running back. He's not decisive. He doesn't hit the hole hard enough. He dances around. He does that Le'Veon Bell type thing, but you don't have the Le'Veon Bell type skills. So it just doesn't add up. It's either that or the team doesn't use him to those capabilities. And then with the fumbling issues, you know, it's like
that too.
Yeah, that experiment just, and then when you're trying to get that third and 1, or fourth and 1, he couldn't do that. So he's not a real running back. He's a compliment. He's a souped up. How can I put it? He's one of those guys. He has a size. You look at his size, you're like, oh, this is a big running back. Yeah, he's big, 228 pounds, but he doesn't run big. It's just not him. He's a finesse guy. He's a gadget guy that can do some things. Yeah, he had 10 rushing touchdowns and 11 rushing touchdowns. I mean, total touchdowns, 2 years combined. But the things that you need out of a running back, he's not that. So when they drafted Brian Robinson Jr., I started telling people, that's the guy. And throughout the entire rookie drafts, I'm getting this guy at the 204 to the 208, that range. And oh man, I have so many Brian Robinson Jr. shares. I'm so excited. When he comes back fully healthy, he'll be good to go. We are in the rapid fire portion of the show. Amon-Ra St. Brown, are you in on him or are you out? Like, what do you think?
And he's a stud. Like, he's good. And I know people are worried because they're like, oh, injuries happen. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, he freaking produced at an insane rate. And like, he got comfortable. Like rookie wide receivers, it takes them time to develop. So you'll see the progression of basically the points per game for rookie wide receivers. It's just like it's a slope going up to the right. That's how it works. So he finally got comfortable. Cup trusts him. Don't expect the freaking 35% target share or anything like that he had at the end of the year, because that's ridiculous. But he's a top 24 wide receiver for me.
Right.
He's going to be good, and he's going to be the wide receiver one. Jameson Williams is going to come on at some point, but like he's coming back from an ACL. Like he's a long play, so he might be good. He might not be this year. That's just kind of the thing. But Amon-Ra is good. He's proven that even though he's a 4th round pick, it doesn't matter.
Right.
He knows how to play. He's basically, Matthew Harmon calls him a zone beater, like Cooper Kupp, Bud Light, basically, because he knows what to do and he knows how to win. So, and they're running that basically a similar type of offense. So he's basically just going to be, a Cooper Kupp light, and that's still going to be very good for fantasy. So I'm not worried about Amon-Ra. Like, I like Amon-Ra. He's good.
And this is what I want to say about Amon-Ra St. Brown. If you guys are going to get excited about Terry McLaurin rookie year, or DK Metcalf rookie year, or Deontay Johnson rookie year, show this guy some love, man. The hate that he gets is ridiculous, and he did this as the number 1 guy with everybody being hurt. So a lot of these guys like Terry and DK and some of these other guys, well, not DK, he had help. A lot of these guys didn't have help, and they were able to produce with lower tier, lesser quarterbacks. Just imagine what happens when the Lions finally get a quarterback next year. I mean, so if it's dynasty, I'm buying. If it's redraft, I'm still drafting this guy. I think he's going to be great. And one thing that Jared Goff says about Amon-Ra St. Brown is that, hey, he can trust him. And if you can trust somebody as a security blanket, you're going to get targets. You don't have to be the fastest guy, the biggest guy, the guy that jumps higher. He just knows how to get open. And he catches everything. Which rookie scores the most points this year?
Breece Hall. Like, I love James. I love James Cook. Like, I've been pounding table for him, but it's Breece Hall. And like, I don't know. There was a poll from Adam Azer where he freaking posted Breece Hall and Dameon Pierce, and I don't know what's going on.
Right.
People are taking Dameon Pierce, and I'm like, for the love of God, don't do that ahead of Breece Hall. Like, Breece Hall is such a better player. So like, I get it, opportunity. But Breece Hall has an opportunity too. So I understand why people talk themselves into Pierce. Like, Pierce is fine. You can take him later, but just don't take him ahead of someone like Breece Hall, because that's an elite talent. You always want to invest in elite talents. Yeah. So,
So people say Damone Pierce, but here is the thing. Like, here's my little spiel about Pierce. I've seen Antonio Gibson get volume, and it worked out for him. He was, a RB1, borderline RB1, RB2, high end RB2. At the end of the day, when you get volume, and if you're a decent offense, you might do something. But for me in Pierce, I don't see that with Pierce. Even if he gets the volume and he does well, what makes you think he does not get Michael Carter? He's going to get Michael Carter next year. With them having multiple picks in the 1st and 2nd round, they're going to draft a running back. For the fact that they didn't draft Kenneth Walker this year, you best believe they're drafting a stud running back next year. So if you have Dameon Pierce right now, you sell him at his highest value. I was able to get a 23 third, Boston Scott, and Robbie Anderson.
Yeah,
for Pierce.
If that's good for you, then you're like, yeah, cool, that works.
Yeah, and the team that I sold him to, they're probably gonna make the playoffs. They probably gonna make the
Yeah.
playoffs. So you're talking about a top 6 pick. I'll take that all day long. In a
Yeah.
league where I need a quarterback or I need a stud running back, stud wide receiver. I mean, it's crazy class coming out next year. Who do you got between DJ Moore and Rashard Bateman?
DJ Moore. Like, he's one of, I would say, like, pushing on top 5 wide receivers in the NFL. He's freaking phenomenal. Like, and he's had just noodle arm Cam Newton, the awful, like, he's had the worst quarterbacks. It's been atrocious. Teddy Bridgewater, like, he ain't gonna do anything for you. Had Sam Darnold last year. Had PJ Walker, XFL. Like he's had the worst quarterbacks. So he finally gets Baker, and Baker can actually get him the ball. And this is the year it's gonna happen for DJ. Like, he's been top 20 wide receiver, which, like, I think that's kind of Rashad Bateman's ceiling is like top 20. Like DJ Moore, that's kind of his floor. So the way I look at it is, like, DJ Moore, he's basically been top 20 the last couple of years. And, like, points per game a little bit worse, but I don't see him being anything less than that. If he hits the ceiling this year, he's a top 12 wide receiver. I don't see the pat. Like, I've been anti-Almond or Rashad this year. Right. Even though I loved him as a prospect, it might backfire on me because it looks like they might pass a lot more than I thought. But I just still need to see it from Bateman because he was okay as a rookie. Like, he was dealing with injuries, so, like, there's kind of a built-in excuse. But he wasn't that great. But, like, DJ Moore had, like, freaking 28% target share last year. Right. If he does that with Baker, like, he could be top 5. Like, that's what people need to realize, like, how good this guy is. He's an incredible talent. So you can get him in, like, the 4th round. Like, I'm doing that all day in drafts. So I'm like, yep, just click DJ Moore, call good. I actually had a toss-up between him and Pittman in one of my drafts last week, and I was like, no, I love DJ Moore too much. I got to take him over Pittman. So, like, that's kind of where the line was. Yeah, he was wide receiver 18 last year. So, yeah, I'm very bullish on DJ Moore. So, and there are a few people that are, like, crazy bullish, but I'm all in.
You're selling me on DJ Moore. Remember, I'm a guy that I can't stand DJ Moore, and you just sold me DJ Moore. You just made me draft him 2 more times this weekend. So.
he's like Terry McLaurin, where McLaurin, the same thing, like, bad situation. But he's just been a better wide receiver than McLaurin for fantasy.
That's true.
So, like, he's been more productive. So it's the same guy, and, like, they both get quarterback upgrades. And, like, I know everyone hates Wentz, but F1 should be good this year too. So, like, we should see both of them have, like, their best fantasy years this year.
Right.
It should be a lot of fun.
If DJ Moore's going to do what you said, I can steal this guy in the 5th and 6th round because there's plenty of guys out there me who say, "Oh, DJ Moore is not going to do anything." And remember, to start the year last year, DJ Moore did a lot of great things. Remember, and we were talking about DJ Moore like being a top 3, top 5 wide receiver, and then things kind of went downhill. Who do you have between Breece Hall and Zeke Elliott?
Breece, I'm not so. Like, yeah, like, I don't even want to touch Zeke at that cost.
Same.
Yeah, he's the total volume play, and he actually has Pollard, who's a very good running back, pushing him, like, up his butt. So the two of them, like, I would much rather have Breece. Like, he's young, and running backs from, like, age 21 to 24, like, that's where they have their best seasons. And Breece is right in that window. So know, like, that's where they hit their ceiling because they still have that explosive ability, which Zeke does not have anymore. Like, he's terrible at explosive plays. So what you're counting for Zeke is a good offense, but that line is falling apart. So I'm very worried for Zeke this year. So I don't want Zeke at that cost. Like, that's too much. I'm going to let someone else roster him. I'll take the upside play with Breece, and, like, I'll let someone else roster him.
And not only that, Breece Hall is 217 pounds. He's not a small guy.
He's not a
small guy, man. He's so explosive. All right, who are you taking between Dame Harris and Ramondre Stevenson?
Ramondre, just because he's shown that he's a good pass catcher, and I don't know when Monty's coming back. Ty Montgomery's coming back. Like, I don't know when he comes back. So, like, ideally, Ramondre gets more receiving work, and, like, Harris will be fine. Like, they're probably going to be very close in points per game, realistically, just because they're going to split a lot of work. But in points, in, like, PPR, I want the guy catching passes, and that's going to be Ramondre. But they're basically just, like, they're pretty even. I'm not really sold on either one, but I'll take the guy who's got the pass catching upside in Stevenson.
I love it. In that league I was telling you about where I took all those guys and all those running backs with Breece Hall, Swift, and Eckler. I ended up getting Ramondre Stevenson as my 4th or 5th
Yeah, right.
running
You're
back.
just like,
So it was just an excellent draft, man. It was just one of those drafts for the ages that I'm like, I can't believe that you guys let me walk out of here with so much stuff. Um,
yeah, it's those are the best when you just like walk out and you know like you dominated the draft
right,
because like it all came together. Like I don't even got to do anything else. Like let's just go to the
right,
playoffs. It's like yeah,
right. Who do you like more between Waller and Schultz? I already know what you're gonna say.
yeah, it's
That's easy.
Waller. Like
Waller. Yeah, that
Waller's
was
a
easy.
freak. Waller's a converted wide receiver who's a freak. Like he's a high end freak athlete. Like I don't
Right,
think people understand how good of an athlete Waller is, and he's actually good at tight end on top of it. So he's basically Schultz just on steroids is the way I look at him. Just because
right.
he's bigger, he's faster, he does everything you want from that upside, and
Yes,
he's in
sir.
an incredible offense too. Like
Right.
they got Adams, like they've improved the offense. The line's still super questionable, so you know they're going to be using him in the passing game a lot
Yep.
because Carr might not be able to chuck it downfield all game.
Yep.
So, but
Yep.
like you just look at Waller and he's that prototypical like build of tight end people
Mm-hmm.
chase, and he's already
Right.
proven that he's a good tight end. So yeah, it's Waller for me.
Okay. Good deal. Good deal. Same here. Who do you have between Goff, Jared Goff, Davis Mills, Danny Dimes?
Oh gosh, so if this is super flex, I'm taking Goff because I want a floor.
Yep.
Like I don't want either one of these guys to kill me, and Mills and Dimes could literally kill you. But in one QB, I'm gonna take the upside, and it's Danny Dimes because he has rushing ability.
Yep.
So I'm
Yep.
going to take that, and if he falls flat on his face, I will pick up somebody else on waivers who is probably like somebody like Ryan Tannehill, probably because people
Right.
don't draft him. Like I would just take that. So
Right.
I'll take the upside shot. I'm not going to be happy with having any of these guys in a quarterback league, though. I would be like, I've done
Right.
something wrong to end up with one of them three.
Yeah, I had to ask this question because in our Superflex, for those of us who kind of faded QB2, we were
Yeah.
ending up with either Jared Goff, Davis Mills, or Danny Dimes. And for me, I took Jared Goff every single time. In Dynasty, I have
Yeah.
plenty shares of Jared Goff. I just think that Jared Goff is a decent enough quarterback. I know the last 2 years has been kind of iffy, but you surround this guy with talent. They have a good offensive line. He can do some stuff. He might not be the
Yeah, I
best
mean,
quarterback, but he can put up
go
numbers.
look
He's
at it.
capable.
Yeah, look at his Rams stat line. He was like good with the Rams. So
Mhm.
basically, you're surrounding him with talent all over the field, which they've done a good job of. So he doesn't have to be Superman. He just has to get them the ball,
Exactly.
which he's capable of.
Exactly. And then the last one is Justin Fields or Tua Tagovailoa.
So same scenario. If it's one QB, I'm taking the upside shot with Fields, and I don't like it at all. Like it terrifies me just because that team is trash. Like if they're not the worst team in the league, they are like bottom 3. So he's missing talent. So basically, if Fields is going to be good, he's going to be doing it himself this year because that line is atrocious. Like if you watch that line, he's running for his life. He's not going to have any time. If it's super flex, I am 100% taking Tua. I'm not like I want the safety. Like I don't want to risk it because the super flex, man, if you don't have quarterbacks, say Fields busts and you don't have it, like Tua is not going to bust. So you know what you're getting out of Tua, and he could actually be pretty good this year. Would they surround him with 2 elite receiving assets, and like he'll be good. So I'll take Tua just because he's cheaper either as well. So like you can get him. He's not going to cost as much as Fields, and then you just ride it with him. So it's like it's Tua for me.
I love when I go live and I get that question. So here's a bonus question for you. It says my team's quarterback is Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Running backs are Najee Harris, Pollard, Melvin Gordon. Yikes. I know. Wide receivers are CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Deontay Johnson, and Juju.
Oh gosh,
Tight
those
end
wide
is
receivers are
Gerald
money.
Everett, 12-man ESPN full PPR. Then he has another follow-up question. He says, should I accept a trade where I send away Deontay and Olave and receive Marquise Brown and Mike Thomas and Amari Cooper? I'll let you have this one.
All right. So I'm going to say yes because as long as that's Michael Thomas, not the Mike Thomas that's been cut. Yes. So I love Hollywood. I'm a Hollywood guy. Michael Thomas is a stud. So like, and is this like, did they say it was redraft or people like Dynasty?
Yeah,
Because I assumed
redraft.
it was redraft. Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure. I was like, hold on for a second. Deontay is a stud, but like I have him and Hollywood like very similar this year, and then I have Michael Thomas outscoring Olave. As long as he's healthy, like I know we love Olave, but like Thomas has been elite his entire career, so you know what you're getting. So you're getting upgrade, and then you're getting Cooper thrown in just for just for fun. So yeah, like I would happily take that. But I would say you should be trading for a running back and finding a running back instead of trading really good wide receivers for more wide receivers because your team's already stacked a wide receiver, so you don't need to. But I mean that trade makes you better, so I don't mind it at all. So yeah, I would do that trade.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's I agree. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I mean, yeah, Olave is a rookie, and sometimes you don't hit on these rookie wide receivers in redraft. So for the most part, if I can trade one, I have love for Rashad Bateman, and I almost traded for Rashad Bateman and stack with Lamar Jackson. And being for the fact that I had DJ Moore in the 9th round, and he drafted Bateman way too high in the 6th round,
That's
I was
great.
trying to trade. I was trying to trade, but you know what? I'm going to keep DJ Moore after everything that you told me now. It just makes more sense me keeping DJ Moore. I was going to offer him like DJ Moore and Sky Moore because I had so many,
Don't do that.
Yeah, so I'm not going to do that because now it just doesn't make any sense. Just for my love for Bateman, and because I got DJ Moore at such a good value, it's almost crazy to let that value go in the 9th round because you drafted bad. Now you want to come in and capitalize on me? No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Next time you draft better, okay? You had opportunities. You took Gabe Davis and Rashad Bateman over DJ Moore. Crazy.
I saw DJ Moore's like in your draft board when I was looking at that. I was like, he's like a shining light of like, what are people doing here? Like 9th round's crazy. Like I get it. Like he's been frustrating. So as other guys.
I think that 9th round pick is probably going to win me this league.
If he hits,
CeeDee Lamb in the 4th and DJ Moore in the 9th, those two, and that's me saying I'm not going to draft wide receivers.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That's me fading wide receivers, and I still get wide receivers, and I get the running backs that I wanted. Plus, Schultz is a tight end that I believe, and then Lamar Jackson. I mean, come on, man. Then they gave me a bench as well. So that was a beautiful draft, man. This has just been an awesome show.
It's beautiful.
Man, thank you so much for coming on, man. I had a blast. We definitely have to do this again, especially when it gets on and popping. Usually around this time, even though it's late, I get a lot of people that come into the chat. Sometimes they come randomly from YouTube and ask their little questions and things of that nature. So once things pop off, I'll definitely love to have you come back. Thank you so much for coming on. Where can the people find you?
So you can. The majority of my stuff's on Twitter. Like I'm on Twitter way too much, so you'll see me on Twitter all the time. But it's at the bottom of the screen. It's J. My last name is Moeller, so Moeller 05. You can search me on Twitter or just type in Jesse Moeller. I'll pop up. And then the website I work with is FF League Winners. You can find them on Twitters, and that's where all my published content is. So if you're looking for more articles and not just quick little tweets, like stuff that's more detailed, has my research and thought process behind it, like that's where you can find that stuff. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Man, thank you so much for coming on once again, guys. This is the Talking Sports with Manny YouTube channel. Also, this is the Talking Sports with Manny podcast. For those of you guys that are going to be listening to this on the audio version, whether you're going to work or whatever, please subscribe, please like, please rate. For those watching on YouTube, please like, please subscribe, please share. Helps with the algorithm and just helps to build the show and build a product. So thank you so much, Jesse, for coming on once again. And we definitely got to do this again.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I very much appreciate it. It was a great time today.
Yes, sir. All right, man. We are out. Peace.